Hey, how are you guys doing today? So far so good here. Another busy day as normal. My peppers and tomatoes are really doing crazy in the garden this year. I've already put up a lot of juice and put peppers up and whatnot. But today I'm going to make some salsa. I have got some green bell peppers, I got some red, yellow, orange, and some hot peppers. Right now, I'm just cutting them in half, taking the seeds out, and putting them in small enough pieces to fit in my little chopper. This thing is really a trick. It saves hours and hours and hours of chopping. It's got a little grate in here. I just put my peppers on it and close it. And it is perfectly diced. There we go for the peppers. I also have onions that I have to dice, and I'll show you how I'm going to prepare the tomatoes when I get to that step. Alrighty, we've got our peppers chopped up. Now I need to chop up some onions to go in their salsa. I just peel them, cut them in half, and smack it. That's not that hard. Actually, my mom told me about this little thing right here. I've seen them on TV, but like so many of the as seen on TV things, I was very skeptical about buying it and using it. Then I went to her house, and she had all kinds of perfectly chopped up veggies, and I said, wow, that looks nice, and she showed me her little chopper. So I had to go get one. But it saves hours over the life of this little thing. Oops. Sometimes when they're a little big, you have to slide them over there. But we'll just keep doing this until I get the right amount of onions. And don't worry, I'll give you guys the directions on how to do this in the description box. Don't you just love that skin on those onions? It's kind of gross. Let me wash this one. Alright, much better. Couldn't have got much better if I tried on that. That's actually the right amount. I needed 3 cups, and I'm just a tad bit over, which does not bother me in the least. Okay, and I have a pot on here heating up, and what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to blanch my tomatoes. What I mean by that is I've got a tomato. I'm going to make a little X across the bottom of it. And when the water comes up to boil, I'm going to drop these in there and let them stay for about a minute, minute and a half. And then the skin is going to start peeling off of them. Okay, then I'm going to drop them in cold water, ice cold water, actually with ice cubes in there. And that way it's going to shock it and it's really easy to peel. And then we'll put that in the little dicer too. That way we have uniform pieces for everything. I'll show you guys that when my water gets up to temp. Alrighty, my water's come up to a boil. Now I'm going to put some of these tomatoes down in here. Not too many at a time. We don't want them to overcrowd and cool it off too much. And it's always better to use your little ladle to put your tomatoes in there rather than just plop them down in there. This way you avoid getting burned. I've done that before. Alright. We're going to leave those in there for a couple of minutes. That way they'll come back up to a boil. And then I will put them in my pot that has ice cold water in there. Alright, those peels have started to come off already. So I've got cold water here. I'm dumping my ice. There we go. In there. So I'm just going to take the tomatoes, drop them down in there. As you can see right here, the peels are slipping right off, which is exactly what we want. Okay. And it is a process. We do it over and over and over until we get 20 pounds. Yes, folks, 20 pounds of tomatoes peeled. Right here, these are Roma tomatoes. I do have some other types of tomatoes, some other heirlooms that I got from my parents' house. I don't know the names of all of them, but they're going to make some really good salsa. Okay, there we go. Now we go back over here. These are cool. Let's get these out. That way they're not sitting in there getting the water any warmer than what it already is. The reason I'm grabbing these with my hands is because I don't want to get rid of my ice cubes. And this is a strainer, so all the water that's on there is going to drip off of my tomatoes. That way we don't have watered down salsa. So now we wait for that to come back up to a boil and to get it to the point where it will slip. So while we're doing on that, we get our next tomato and we make our cross. I always try to do 2 or 3 things at one time to keep the line moving. And when you find a tomato that slipped past you that's ugly, you just throw it in your trash bowl. Not yet. Alrighty, the tomatoes have cooled down enough to take the peels off. So I'm just going to put it down in there and mash it. Peel it and mash it. These tomatoes have a lot of juice in there. Whoops. There you go, folks. They're real life around here. Put it in there. mash it. Tomato juice squirting everywhere, all over me. But that's the way it is. But that's what it looks like whenever you're dicing them up. And we just keep going. But I made some salsa, the same recipe, a week or so ago, and oh my goodness, it is so good. So when I got another abundance of tomatoes and peppers, I knew what I had to do. Oh gosh. These are juicier than the last batch. Look at this. Everywhere. And I even had it in a pan to catch it. Whenever you folks can, till you mess up almost everything in the house, like I do. I've got bowls of tomatoes everywhere. I've got my pot sitting there with tomatoes in it. I've got my trash bowl. I've got my strainer. I don't know how to cook without making a mess. Are you guys like that? Let me know in the comments. But I'll just keep this process going, and I'll show you some more results in a few minutes.
Mine's very juicy.
Yeah, they are very juicy. Thank you for helping. Is there any more in here that's peeled? It's always nice to have help whenever you're doing something. We got us a little sieve line going here. Is there any more that's ready in here? Oh, here we go. A lot of them. Oh, I'm trying to find them. Hey guys, the boys are helping now. They are peeling the tomatoes, and right now I'm cutting them up. They're peeling and dropping them back in the container there. Okay guys, I'm ready to put these other cold tomatoes in there because the ones that's on the in the pot need to come out. We just want to blanch them, we don't want to cook them. Move your hands, Jackson. Thank you.
I'm going to put this one in there because it's ready.
Okay, just lay it right there. Okay, thank you. We've got maybe a third of the tomatoes done so far. So we're doing pretty good. Just have to play catch up.
Mom, I just realized something.
What did you realize?
I was peeling this part off.
Well, we don't peel that part, just the outer part, just the skin. Okay? Be careful.
But I didn't cut my hand off.
No, you didn't cut your hand. You didn't have your hand over here. Alright. And when my little container gets quite a few in there, I'm dumping it out in yet another pot, guys. Then I have a little strainer sitting here, and all the excess juice is draining out. That is going to make our cook time so much faster if we don't have all that in there. Go ahead and turn it on. Wash your hands first.
Bye-bye. For now. See you next.
Well, I am just about to the bottom of this strainer. That makes 20 pounds of tomatoes that have been blanched, peeled, and part of them cut up. It's been almost an assembly line here because the boys have been peeling and throwing them over in a bin for me to chop. They have definitely made a long day of work a little bit easier. But I've got one more blanching after what's in the pot right now. Then we'll be able to actually start cooking the salsa. Alright, there's one more strainer of tomatoes in there. I've got about one more to chop up. And it looks like we have literally murdered somebody over here with all these tomato seeds. And I have wiped up several times, believe it or not. But this right here is all the tomatoes that we have left to chop and dice. I have to cut them to fit in here because these really big heirlooms are way too big for this little square. That's what all this right here is overflow. But we're just about there, guys. Thank goodness. It's only been about 2 hours or so of work to get to this point. The last tomato. And of course it's got to be a gushy one. Yeah. Thank goodness. Now we get to move on to the next step. And that definitely involves cleaning up this nasty kitchen. If you guys can without ruining your whole kitchen, kudos to you. Because I can't. It seems like I mess up everything I own whenever I do this. But now, the last little bit in here. Stir it around. Get all the juice out. That way it doesn't have to cook as long later. We'll have this on the stove here in a minute. Alright, we have our tomatoes in the pot. I have the onions that we diced up. And yes, folks, I do have clean hands. I've only washed them 1,000,000 times today, it seems like. I have green, red, orange, and yellow bell peppers and a couple of hot peppers added to it. Apple cider vinegar. Okie dokie. This is my pink Himalayan sea salt. Got 1½ tablespoons of it that goes in there. We have 3½ tablespoons of sugar. Teaspoon of pepper, or a little over a teaspoon of pepper. That's okay. And last but not least, it calls for 2 cloves of garlic. So I'm going to put 2 teaspoons of the pre-chopped garlic in there because I don't have any fresh garlic. But that'll be just fine. Now, I'm going to stir this up. This is so pretty. And I have it over a medium heat. And we're going to let it cook until it cooks down. I can't tell you exactly right now how long that's going to be. Every type of tomato is a little bit different. Every tomato has a little bit more juice. So it just all depends on what you have in here. But you're going to cook it until it's done and let it simmer before we put it in the jars. Hey, we've been letting this cook down for probably 45 minutes or so after it came up to a good boil. I was trying to let it get a little bit thicker. We like thick salsa instead of a lot of the thinner salsas that you buy in the grocery store. We like it thick, chunky, and pretty good sized pieces. Right now I'm putting a tablespoon of lemon juice in each one of my jars. A lot of people say that it's not necessary to do that, but with the difference of variety of tomatoes and the different acidity levels, I would rather throw a tablespoon of lemon juice in there, not affect my taste whatsoever, and know that I'm adding a little bit of extra acid to preserve my tomatoes. Okay, I've got my juice in here. Let me turn this down on warm. I have my canner preheating over low. And now I need to find a towel. I know this is crazy, guys, but the way this kitchen is designed, it has a glass top stove, which I cannot can on. So therefore, I have to improvise. So I have a gas stove over here, and I go across the back of it. It drips, and I don't want tomato juice everywhere. So I know you're going to think I'm crazy again, but instead of using a ladle and having 3 or 4 scoops, I would rather use a small pot and have less than one. It's a time saver and it works for me. You put the lids on finger tight, set it in your canner. That you be sure that you have that little thing in the bottom of it. Don't know what it's called, but it keeps your jars from sitting right down on the bottom of the pot and bursting. And also I have put a little bit of white vinegar in there. That way the jars don't have the hard water buildup on there. They're nice and clean. I'm just going to go on and continue filling up these jars till we get them full. Then we're going to process them. Okay, our salsa has been processing for 30 minutes in a water bath, and I just turned it off a minute or so ago and let all the boiling die down. So now I'm getting ready to get it out, set it on my counter that has been covered with a thick towel so we won't have any. The camera. Hey, the timer just went off. So, I'm getting my jars of salsa out. I water bath canned them for 30 minutes. And that is some good looking salsa, if I do say so myself. I ended up with 19.5 pints. and hopefully it will all seal. But it's nice and thick, just how we like it. Hope you guys enjoyed coming along for the day while we made salsa. Thanks so much for watching, and see everybody on the next video.